everyone, it's Kathy Zilski. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm excited to be part of the Simon Says Stamp Fresh Blooms blog hop. And today I'm going to be sharing a card project featuring a brand new stamp set from me, as well as a brand new pattern builder stamp from Simon Says Stamp. It's a very simple card that is designed to send to someone who might need a lift. So let's take a look at the products. The stamps I'm using are from the You Got This set, and again, this is just a set of encouragement stamps, and there are coordinating dies that you can purchase as well to cut out some of those larger sentiments. And then I'm going to be using this really cool new geometric pattern builder. I think you can do a lot of cool things with this set. I'm going to take the most simple strip over there on the right for creating my card project today. I'm going to be doing some painting with distress inks, and I've got my colors here: Festive Berries, Worn Lipstick, Spiced Marmalade, Mustard Seed, Twisted Citron, Cracked Pistachio, Peacock Feathers, and Seedless Preserves. So I've also got a big old fat brush that I'm going to be using for some messy painting, some Versamark ink, and some white embossing powder for the project. I'm also going to be using some clear embossing powder and some VersaFine ink for my sentiment. And I've also got some sequins that I will be finishing off the card with. This is Crystal Reflections, one of my favorite sets from Simon Says Stamp. For cardstock today, I've got Neenah Solar White, and then I'll also be using some Tim Holtz Distress watercolor cardstock because it is so bright white, but I'll be using the smooth side. I will also be using my Misty tool today to help me with my stamping, and a Misty Creative Corner, which I will be using as well to help me get the perfect position. So let's start out with the stamp. I'm going to peel off this big old strip of, are those hexagons? I think they are. I'm going to just place it down, and you can see where I put in my Creative Corner because I wanted the stamp to have clearance to bleed, hang over the upper edge and the lower edge. So I'm going to make sure that my magnet is in place, and I will use my embossing magic pad and run it over there real quick to just get all the static off my page. Now for the Versamark, my sticky ink. I'm going to ink this up really well, press it down, use the sleeve technique, the patented, no, I didn't patent it, it feels better to slide my sleeve, but I'm going to hit it twice. That's the beauty of the Misty, is I know that as long as everything's magnetized down, I can hit it twice and get a really great impression of my clear ink. All right, I've got some Brutus Monroe Alabaster. This is one of my favorite whites, and I'm just going to sprinkle this on. Sprinkle it on once, tap it off, and I think I will sprinkle one more time just to make sure that I get a really nice coating because there's so little going on this card project. I want to make sure that my powder is perfect. Well, that looks pretty darn good. Okay. My heat tool is nice and hot, and then I'll very quickly just bring it to the cardstock and melt that powder until it's shiny and smooth. Lovely. Now I'm sticking a little piece of Post-it tape here because I want to mask off an area where I know my sentiment is going to be, because I'm creating a rainbow and I don't want to lose rainbow. Does that make sense? So I want the rainbow to extend all the way, but I don't want colors to be obscured, if that makes sense. All I'm going to do for painting today is smush down my cube and pick up the color with a damp brush and layer it in kind of a messy fashion over this geometric stripped shape. That's it. I've got my glass media mat, and I love the white area because you smush your ink cube down and you can clearly see what you're doing. It's just a great little area to work on for a palette. And it's easy cleanup. Between colors, I'm just going to wipe it away and bring in the next color. Now, I just did a project recently with the exact same colors, and I will definitely link to that video because I'm trying to figure out how to get more use out of the same products. Does that make sense? Now, here's a little tip. If you're going to mask off an area, don't use a hot pink Post-it note, because what I did not realize was, oh, it's gonna leach out a little ink. So I had this little bit of pink there and I started to panic, but I realized, you know what? No one's going to see that. So probably masking tape would work better in an instance like that. So finishing out the rainbow all the way down with the Seedless Preserves, and that's it. that's the basic color wash in messy fashion, and I will just set that aside to dry. Next, it's time to stamp the sentiment, and I will be using the Hang In There Friend, and I'll be using VersaFine. The reason why is that I want to get a nice juicy bit of black ink, and the VersaFine, it will stay a little wet for, not very long, but long enough so that I can use some clear embossing powder. Now, I stamp twice just because I like backups. I figure if you're gonna stamp it out, stamp more than one. And it actually, I believe it's scientifically proven to up your chances of cutting it out right the first time. Thank you. All right, clear powder, tapping that on. And now you can kind of see how it dulls it down a little bit. But as soon as I bring my heat embossing tool, which is nice and hot, as soon as that heat hits, that embossing powder melts and gets shiny and deep. And it also creates a little bit of dimension. It's very subtle. I love it. To cut out the sentiment, I create a template out of a lighter cardstock. I have this gray cardstock, and once that opening is framed out over my sentiment, then you just pop the die back in. The reason I like to do this, it takes the guesswork out of die cutting things like this, and I think I'd rather do it once than twice. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to stamp the little "You Can Weather This Storm" just onto a piece of Licorice black cardstock. This is from Lawn Fawn. Versamark ink. I don't want to press too hard here because it is a delicate sentiment, but I'll sprinkle on my white powder. And this is why it's important to use embossing magic, because now my powder really only sticks where it's supposed to stick, and any extra I can just brush off with a dry paintbrush. My heat tool is nice and hot, and I can quickly melt that and get it all shiny and white. Looks great. Now I'll be using the Simon sentiment labels to cut the sentiment out. I just like these because you can quickly frame your strips. Again, no guesswork. Now here's a little secret I want to share, trade secret that I figured out. When you have your strips, if you're like me and have a hard time figuring out where to cut, line up the last letter of your strip, whatever's on your strip, with the plastic cutting guard. Watch this. Press it right down on the edge of the letter once I flipped it. And when you cut, your cutting guard measure gives you a perfect space from side to side. It's kind of cool, huh? Yeah, okay. Card base. I'm going to score this at 5.5. This is going to be a top folding card, but I am not going to fold it yet because one thing I feel like I never show is the inside of a card. So I'm going to take this, flip it over, so we're dealing with the inside of a card, put that down in my MISTI tool, just grab the sentiment and line it up with one of my MISTI creative corners. I never show the inside of cards, but I love to stamp the inside of cards as well. Here I'll use just some Memento Tuxedo Black, only because I didn't want to wait for the VersaFine to dry. And now the inside of the card says, "I'm here for you in the meantime." Just like that. I'm trimming a little off the top and the sides, top, bottom, side to side, because I want the finished measurement on this card panel to be 4 and 5 1/4. And so I'm just going to flip it, and take 1/8 of an inch off each side. Looks good. And then I just loaded up foam tape. My Big Mama tape roll, I have another one on order. It's almost spent. It's almost spent. I've had it since 2017. That is no lie. All right, quickly get my card base on there. And I've also got a little foam tape behind the sentiment strip. And I've got the same dimension on the sentiment itself. And that creates a nice bit of even popped up dimension for that. And to finish off the card, just some sequins. I used to try to make a jewel picker work for me, and I just had trouble with it. So I am now using tweezers and the Tim Holtz craft pick, because this combo, I feel like it's not letting me down. So far, so good. But 3 simple sequins to pick up different areas in the rainbow, and that finishes this card project. I really like how it turned out, just the simple rainbow, and it's messy, and I feel like this is a really easy project to do, but hopefully it will bring some cheer and joy to my recipient. Thank you so much for watching today. Please check out the rest of the blog hop. You can find all the information below the video, and I will see you back here again with another card project soon.